Have you ever wanted to know some of the deepest truths of life? Hi, this is Nathan Crane, founder of the Panacea Community, and today I have a very special guest with me who is connecting with us to bring forth some of those deep truths of life that really take some deep courage to share with the world. And so stay tuned. Today I'm interviewing Gregg Braden about his incredible book, Deep Truth. I have to say, this book is truly amazing, Greg. You know, you've got a really unique combination of many years of hands on experience with various tribes and cultures from all over the world. Plus, that's coupled with kind of a scientific engineering background. So you really get to see both sides of the coin. And my first question is, what exactly do you mean when you say deep truth?
Well, Nathan, that's a good place to begin today. I'm going to begin. This is the first time you and I have worked together, and I'm thrilled to be on your program, and I want to thank you for all that you're doing to make these conversations possible, to provide a forum for this kind of programming. We often take it for granted here in our part of the world, and I've been in parts of the world where it's rare and it's precious. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you, and it's doubly an honor to have you on the show today. So. Yeah, I'm just really excited to have you here and looking forward to some of your deep insights.
Sure. Well, I was trained as a scientist, Nathan, and my background, particularly in the earth sciences. I was a geologist during the first energy crisis. I was working at Phillips Petroleum back in the 70s. I was working as a senior computer systems designer in the defense industry during the last years of the Cold War in the 80s. In the early 90s, I was first technical operations manager at Cisco Systems during what was called at that time an information sharing crisis. And through all of these experiences, what I've learned is the way that we tend to think on the large scale to solve problems on the large scale, and the way that we have had a tendency to take what we have believed about ourselves and our relationship to the world in the past and use that to solve the problems of the present. And this is where context is so important, David. If our listeners, Nathan, if our listeners are listening to this right now, I know they know this is no ordinary time in the history of our world, and the best minds of our time are, in fact, telling us that right now, this generation, these years, we are facing the greatest number of crises ever to face a single generation in all of recorded human history. Never have so many people been asked to solve so many big problems in such a short period of time, and to do so by changing the way they think, by thinking differently. That's where I think this book, I'm so passionate about sharing the information in the book Deep Truth, because as a scientist, I ask myself the question, why are so many systems that we've come to trust and rely upon, why are they collapsing right now? The economic system of the world is a perfect example. Or the way that we've chosen to share and exploit vital resources, peak oil, food, water, medicine, things like that. Why are these things all happening at the same time? And what I found is that the systems that we see collapsing excuse me, in the world around us now, the only ones that are collapsing are the ones that are unsustainable in the present environment. And it is telling us that we have built this way of living upon unsustainable ways of thinking and unsustainable ways of living. The deepest truths of our own science now are telling us where the thinking of the past
Right.
where the thinking of the past no longer fits, where in some cases it was incorrect, in some places it was flat out wrong. So the book is essentially a survey of 5 of the false assumptions of science that have led to the crises that we see today, and the new discoveries tell us where we can change the way we think and the way we live to not only meet the needs, but to transform ourselves and our world and transcend those crises into a thriving world of hope and possibility. So that's what these ideas are all about. Maybe in the interest of time, today. Could I identify those 5 key assumptions and then maybe jump into a couple of them if we want to take it in that direction?
Sure. Absolutely.
So of the many false assumptions, there are 5 key ones that are wreaking havoc in our world today. And I'm going to go through them just very, very quickly. The very first one, it's taught in our schools today, and when I was in school back in the 50s and 60s, this is what I was being taught. The same thing is being taught to our young people today. It's a Darwinian assumption that evolution explains life in general and human life specifically. The problem is that the new data simply no longer supports that assumption. As a geologist, I have to say evolution is a fact in a geologic record. However, it does not explain human origins and human existence, and that's where the problem comes in. That's
Right.
false assumption number one. Number two is with regard to civilization itself. We've been taught that civilization began about 5,000 years ago. The best science of our time is now revealing evidence of advanced civilizations over twice that old into the end of the last ice age. And where this is important, it means that people and civilizations of the past experienced changes in their world very similar to what we're living in ours, specifically in terms of climate right now. And if we have the wisdom to learn from them, what did they do that worked, what didn't work, maybe help us with some insights into what's happening in our world today. False assumptions number 3 and 4 are actually related in terms of the world of physics. Number 3, we're taught that consciousness is somehow separate from our physical world. Number 4, the space between physical things is empty. The problem, once again, is the data no longer supports these assumptions. The best science of our time is telling us that the world that we see, the physical world, actually is the outpicture, and it emerges from a deeper world of energy and patterns where everything is in fact connected and there is no empty space between things. But the consequence of this way of thinking, if we are led to believe that everything is separate from everything else, then thinking is what we do in one place has no effect and no impact on what happens somewhere else. And the science is telling us that simply is not true. And the implications are vast. And the fifth one on this list, and the first one I'd like to really jump into here, is another Darwinian assumption. Darwin said in the mid-1800s that nature is based upon a model of what he called, in his own words, survival of the strongest. That was later interpreted as survival of the fittest. But in Darwin's own words, survival of the strongest. That idea was embraced quickly and became deeply entrenched in late 1800s, early 1900s, precisely during the time that the foundation of civilization, modern Western civilization as we know it today, was being put in place. So these ideas of survival of the strongest are deeply entrenched into the core, the very fabric of the way we've been led to think of ourselves and our world. The very systems that are collapsing because they're no longer sustainable are based upon this false assumption. The global economic system is a perfect example based upon survival of the strongest, the way the corporations have been developed and implemented, the way we're sharing vital resources during a time when many of them are disappearing. In places of the world, people simply don't have access to them. We've been led to believe that we live in a world of scarcity, and many of us have heard the term dog eat dog. And if we solve our problems and continue to solve our problems with that thinking, we know where that leads, because it's the world we're living right now. The new discoveries are telling us in no uncertain terms that nature is actually based upon a model of what biologists call mutual aid and cooperation. And while we see violent competition under some circumstances, it's not the rule of nature. So when we put all these together, Nathan, what they do is they give us a very, very different way of thinking about ourselves and our relationship to the world, a new lens through which to see the most vital relationships in our lives. And that's important at any time. Now it's vital because it's through that lens that we're solving some of the greatest crises ever to face humankind in all of recorded human history. So I wanted to lay that out early on in our time together here, and then we can tie into this in whatever way you'd like to.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And I just saw this article the other day on the internet about it was a really kind of important and high-ranking race. It was like a 300-meter dash or something like that, which was kind of a qualifying scenario for the gentleman running it that was going to get them to the next level of their ability and notoriety and fame and everything. And basically, what happened was the gentleman who was winning the race ended up stopping short of the finish line. He had thought he already passed it, and he was there kind of like, excited and happy that he had passed it. And the gentleman behind him, who wouldn't have won, had the opportunity to pass him easily and take the championship. And he ended up stopping and telling the gentleman who didn't speak English in front of him, hey, you need to go a couple more feet before you actually pass the finish line. And he let him win. And to me, that's a good example of this kind of revived slash new cooperative mindset of thinking that I see is now emerging and expanding out into the world, which is a lot of what you talk about in Deep Truth, is this cooperative mindset rather than this competitive mindset that we've been kind of fueled by these past maybe few thousand years or so.
Sure, sure. What, the truth is that the world of the past that we have all come to trust and rely upon, that we believe we mastered to some degree, that world no longer exists. And no one has really come out and told us that publicly. There have been no media specials, saying that the world that we've known in the past is gone, so that we can mourn that world and let it go. And the result of that is that although the world changed, in many people's minds, they are clinging to an idea of a world that no longer exists, and they're waiting for that world to return. And this is where so much of the suffering comes from. The jobs, the careers, the way they have always thought of themselves in their families, in the workplace, and life is linked to an idea of a world that no longer exists. And for those that are clinging, waiting for that world to return, they're the ones having a really difficult time now, on the one hand. And on the other hand, those that acknowledge that the world of the past is gone, it has served us, it worked well enough to get us where we are now, they can let that go and embrace the new world that's emerging and their place in that world. So here's where this is important, and in the brief time we have, I'm just going to summarize this very quickly. Mm-hmm. In the world of the past, we've been led to believe that we live in this world of separation, where life is random, human life is random, we're separate from our bodies, we're separate from our world, civilization is linear, it's a one-way deal, and that competition is the way to solve our problems. That's the way we've been led to think of ourselves in life. The new discoveries are now showing us that life isn't random. Human life isn't random. We're deeply connected to our bodies. We're deeply enmeshed with the earth itself. Civilization is cyclic. We've had cycles we can learn from in the past. And that nature is based on this model of cooperation and mutual aid. If we can make the shift as individuals, communities, societies, nations, as a planet, to embrace what the new science is telling us are the deepest truths of our existence, it changes everything. And on a very personal level, this is what people listening are saying, well, what does this mean to me? We have been led to ask ourselves a question. Either subconsciously, it has been at the foundation of the way we deal with life, and in many cases, it's very conscious. And the question is this: what's in it for me? So that the question that we've asked in the past is, what can I get from the world that exists? And based upon the answer to that question, that's how we've thought of ourselves in life. The new discoveries are now inviting us to ask a new question. And the new question, rather than asking what can I get from the world that exists, is what can I give to the world that's emerging?
Right.
Now, although it's a simple question, and I ask myself this question every day, at least once a day, and it has become the compass by which I choose my business relationships and where I put my energy each day in my life. The way we answer this question, what can I give to the world that's emerging, opens up the door of new possibilities of career, of employment, of community, of personal development in ways that were simply not possible under the old way of thinking. And when we ask the question, it is based upon facts of peer-reviewed science that tell us the truths, not the speculation, not the wishful thinking, not the theories or hypotheses, but these are factual and specific truths about us and our relationship to the world. And this idea of cooperation, I think, is right there at the top of the list. So when we ask, what can I give to the world that's emerging? For someone whose job has just disappeared because the industry that they thought they would support for the rest of their lives no longer exists. If they're waiting for that industry to come back, that's where the suffering comes in. If they let that idea of themselves and that industry go, and they look at what it is, where are their interests, where are their passions, what is it that the people around them need, what can their community really use, and how can they contribute to that? I've seen specific examples where this has opened up a whole new world of very healthy lives. We live in northern New Mexico, for example, and I know in our valley there are scientists who worked at Los Alamos National Labs as nuclear physicists. When their jobs went away, rather than waiting for those jobs to come back, they looked around and they said, how can I contribute to my community, to my family, share more time with my family? And one of them specifically has now become a llama farmer. He raises llamas with his family. They are home on their own property every day. They get up, they work together for a common good. He gets spend time with his kids, with his wife. They care for the animals. They sell the fur. The animals are cared for and well maintained. They're not killed in the process. And he's much happier now, and he looks years younger, and his body chemistry is much healthier than it was under the stress and the pressure of being in a corporation. And all he did was ask himself a question: what can I give to the world that's emerging? Maybe it's a simplistic answer, but it's a real case history that comes to mind quickly just in the course of our conversation here.
Absolutely, and there's, I'm sure, lots and lots of examples as well. And also, there's for anybody who may just be embarking down this path and may begin asking this question for the first time in their life, one thing to take heed of is that, if the answer doesn't come instantly, don't give up right away. Continue asking, and asking yourself, asking the higher power you believe in, asking, what can I give? Because there's always something that we all can give. It's just a matter of tapping into exactly what that is. And I believe the answer may be different for everybody, but everybody has an answer that will come to them. And
Well, they do, Nathan. And if I can, just one more quick example. I believe we're seeing this play out on a huge scale right before our eyes in ways that people probably never expected in the past. And that is, we all know there is the push for a big war in the Middle East. We're seeing it in the news. There are those that believe it would be good for a global economy, which I think is a very, very sad statement of the economy. But there's also, publicly and behind the scenes, this tremendous push for a resolution through cooperation without the confrontation that we've seen in the past. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing, and I believe that what we're about to witness is the first time in recorded human history, in 5,000 years of human history, this generation is going to be the first generation to walk away from war as a way to solve large-scale problems. And I think it's going to happen in the Middle East within a very brief period of time. And when that happens, that is the first domino that falls and others follow, and it shows us that the way we've thought about solving these problems in the past, without judging them as good, bad, right, or wrong, they simply no longer fit in the world that we live in today. And I think this is going to be a beautiful example on a very visible scale, on a huge scale, of where this idea of nature's deepest truth. We live in a world of mutual aid and cooperation, and to the degree that we can embrace that in each moment and each choice in our lives, we're in harmony with the world around us. We become better people, and we have a better world.
Absolutely. And I know we've only got about 1 minute left here, and I've got about 20 other questions I'd love to ask you, but I'll just ask you one more for now. And really, if you could change anything about the way that we currently interact with the planet and each other as human beings on a global level, on a global scale, on a global level, what would that be? What would you see that to be?
I think it's what we've just talked about. It's a perfect question. What I would change is I would invite each of us to honor the deepest truths of our relationship to ourselves, to our bodies, to the earth, to our past, and then to express that honoring through the way we live our lives, asking the question, what can I give to the world that's emerging, rather than asking, what can I get from the world that exists? And when we do that, that's where we create the harmony that helps us all to become better people. And as that happens collectively, we do create the better world. So I think it's a beautiful summary for what we just covered in the time we have together here today.
Beautiful. Well, that went by so fast, and
We'll do it
you,
again sometime.
I'd love to. You shared
I
some
look forward
really
to it.
really key insights, and I highly encourage everybody to go and pick up the book Deep Truth: Igniting the Memory of Our Origin, History, Destiny, and Fate by Gregg Braden. There's links below this video to pick up the book. You can Google it. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it at Gregg Braden's website, which is greggbraden.com. And leave us your comments below this video. Let us know what you intend to give to the world that is emerging today and what you are currently giving. I'd love to hear your insights and what you're sharing, and I'll respond. And please share this on Facebook and Twitter. Share it with family and friends. Thank you so much, Gregg. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And until next time, have a beautiful day.